Ready. What is going on, everybody? It's another week. It's week 6 now. Guys, we have a lot of football that we've gotten through. I actually am coming off a pretty good football night. And I know Sheets is as well. He beat me by 0.5 points to get 19th instead of 25th, which is also like second versus third in the 222 last night. But we were right there. And more importantly, the Dodgers won and life is wonderful. That was my real heaven. It was an incredible feeling. I understand that game was crazy. I understand Giants fans who are mad the way it ended. Totally understand it. Happy that happened. Rohde, great to have you here. Sheets, great to have you here. We're going to do our picks of the week, and I'm going to start off with Rohde talking about the games that we like. That's how I'm going to share my screen, and we'll go through the games we like, then we'll go position by position. But let's start with you, Rohde. What are the games that you feel like you're targeting the most heavily this weekend?
I really like the go with the KC game. I think, obviously it's going to be chalky. The Rams game is going to be chalky, but that's a stack I'm going to. Sorry guys, I got my phone up. I'm in the car as always here, so it's like,
well, we appreciate it, man. You're a hardworking guy, and you're joining us from the car. We have car Rohde and we get regular Rohde sometimes on the weekends, but we're happy to have you either way.
Yeah, so going back with that, I still like my Chargers a lot. I don't know how chalky they're going to be yet. It looks like a couple, Mike Williams still not gaining a lot of ownership. I can't even trade him in season-long league, even after his like monster receiver performances that he's been putting up this year. Yep. So if people just don't want to buy into it, it's fine because you do on DFS. And if you keep getting 30 points from a guy like that, go for it. He's obviously expensive this week, so you want to play Keenan Allen, but he's also going to be chalky. Well, I love that game stack. I've been high on the Chargers, so those are a few of my stacks that I really like. So yeah,
I'm with you on those games completely. The Baltimore Chargers and the KC Washington. I happen to have a soft spot and a lot of love for this Arizona Cleveland game. It worries me a tiny bit that it could turn into a running game, but I was at that Chargers Cleveland game last week, and it wasn't just that there wasn't being defense played. That the Chargers are really good. Like their offense is absolutely really good. Keenan Allen's awesome, by the way. And the truth is, Mike Williams is just basically uncoverable one-on-one. So when you get a good corner against him, it doesn't even matter really, because that just means one-on-one coverage. But I really like the Arizona Cleveland game in addition to the games you mentioned. I'm a little bit less heavy on the Rams than I think the field is going to be. But maybe we can talk through and get to that. Sheets, what are some games that you're looking at this week?
Yeah, the one you left out, not left out, the one that I have that you guys don't, I really, really like a lot. And I brought it up earlier in the week also. And it's kind of fitting that we're giving the Roto Grinders their love this week because, I've been looking at the blitz for like a long time. And one of the things that Derek really, really focuses in on is the effect of playing in a dome for whatever. And I really like that Cincinnati-Detroit game a lot. Okay. I'm really into that. I'm specifically into the Cincinnati side, obviously, but I really like that. Cincinnati's pretty efficient also. They're not really turning the ball over. I kind of like it. I mean, they got good weapons. But if you like DeAndre Swift, who's going to show up as probably a good running back option anyway, I could use that as a pretty decent, just kind of run back if I have to, if I didn't really want to pick between those Detroit wide receivers. If Hawkinson's playing, obviously he's kind of an easy one to kind of use, but that would be the one that I would add. Like I have 5 teams listed as my mine. 2 of them are from the same game, right? KC Washington, like you said. And Rams and Baltimore, the other 2 mentioned, but I would encourage a look at the Cincinnati side and that game in general.
I totally agree. I was using it for pieces mostly, but I could see it for sure as a game stack. The issue is if I want to stack a team like Cincinnati when they have all their receivers healthy, the problem I run into is I'm trying to figure out which guys I want to use, right? Like, and you have some ownership on each of them. T. Higgins going to be the most popular. Tyler Boyd, though, is probably my favorite play. And then Chase, people won't play as much because of his price being hiked up a little bit. And then again, you can run it back with Hawkinson and Swift. So I actually have some of this as complementary stacks, but maybe I should just go ahead and play the Burrow along with it. I just haven't gotten to that point yet because I'm so in love with Lamar and I'm so in love with Kyler Murray that it's kind of hard for me to not want to go there, as well as Mahomes, of course. So that's the only reason why I didn't. I have 3 quarterbacks that I was planning on using, but I definitely like that. For me, is more of a secondary stack. What do you think about that game, Rohde?
Oh yeah, I love both the games you guys just said. I probably have a Kyler Murray stack every week. I've definitely loved the Arizona. One of the high dollar lineups get that. And I've been taking like a shot at a different lineup, either like a off the wall, like a Cousins type pass heavy team, or like a Burrow. And I think this week's going to be the Burrow to Chase type stack, 2 receivers and a run back in that game. I definitely going to have some pieces of that game or a stack, probably both. So
Yeah,
Hey, Rhodey, let me chime in for a second because you mentioned season long. So as you know, or may remember, I have like 1 season long league I'm in, and one of the things that I did was, like, because of your recommendation, I have Zeke number 1 overall, and I have a couple other guys, and I feel bad for the rest of the people in the league because it's like only a $50 entry fee, and it's like my only season long league, so I really haven't been paying much of attention to it. Like, I'm that guy that literally, I drafted everybody. I literally haven't made a single switch, haven't done anything, and I'm still 3-2. And one of the things I'd have Jamar Chase like on my bench like every week. He keeps on smashing, and I'm sitting with him on my freaking bench.
Bring him out,
smashing people.
take him off the bench.
Yeah.
yeah, I just picked up Jamar Chase in a trade. I got 2 running backs and a Jamar Chase for Hopkins. It didn't look as good at first, but I've had my only good running backs CMC when he was hurt. I didn't have any backup running backs, and AJ Dillon's in my lineup, and Drake, like I just needed some help. So it ended up working out for me because I got a stacked team. Like I got DK and Cup and a couple other guys in that lineup. It was weird how the drafts have been this year, but I'm smashing in my dynasty league with Elliott and Eckler and DK. Like I bought a bunch of good pieces in that. So guys, I've been killing the season log fantasy just as much as I killed DFS. So
Nice.
Yeah, this Rohde's having a good year all around, and I fully expect by the end of it we'll have the full million for you. At some point, buddy, it's gonna happen.
Oh, Sheets is gonna be that guy.
It could be. Both of you guys have had your fair chance. Sheets needed a little bit from your boy Davante Adams, and you just needed the games to stop a little sooner the 1 week. That's
I was holding out.
You got it made in the shade. So I actually will add the Detroit Cincinnati games to a little bit of my interest this week. But let's talk about some positions. And I know it's going to be correlated to the games that we like, obviously. But you look at the ownership, Lamar, rightfully so, highest floor in the NFL, highest ceiling probably in the NFL because of the rushing upside. And people like to talk about Lamar. He's going to be by far the most popular quarterback. But I just want to say, like, I completely get it. Like this guy is a whole different level. And in my opinion, right now, it's he and Herbert are my MVP guys right now. I could throw Stafford into the mix, but I don't think it's really that close. Like if you look at what he's done this year through the air, it's pretty incredible. He's going to lead the league in passing and be in the top 10 in rushing at this pace. But I love Lamar, but at the same time, if you because of the ownership, I don't mind. Why wouldn't we just play Mahomes? And then more importantly, why aren't we going to play Kyler Murray at 5% every week? The only thing that worries me a little bit is that I'm afraid Arizona's defense is actually better than we gave it credit for to start the season. I think they've actually improved. I think they're a lot stronger, a lot tighter, and that's going to keep the games. You're going to see some low scoring games every now and then, but I'm still willing to take that chance. So I'm going to be heavy on the guys the Mahomes, the Herbert, the Lamar, and then I'm going to be heavy on Kyler Murray. But I think Kyler Murray, as of right now, is my favorite. I don't want to say off the board, but I prefer Kyler Murray a little bit over Herbert, although I think both those guys are incredible plays at projected less than 5% ownership. Who are you looking at the most, Rohde? And then we'll jump over to you, Sheets.
One guy on this list I like to see, you got Taylor Heineke in that other run back of the game at 5.8. He's got some good stacking weapons, really, just a few guys there you can run at 5.8. So he's a guy we didn't talk about. And that way you can still get exposure to the KC game. So you can still play Hill or if he's in, or Kelsey in one of the cheaper options if you want, depending. I mean, there's a lot of injuries, guys. A lot of people are questionable this week. We don't really know who's in. Check in on Sunday, 11:30. We'll be discussing guys in and out. Be able to get, your secondary stacks or your correlations with your run backs. And Heineke will be popular a little bit, but I think you get good exposure to that game. Mm-hmm. And Hebert, I really like a lot just because, I think that offense is explosive. It's also, we know who we're stacking with. I think a lot of people struggle with Kyler Murray because they don't know who the hell they're going to stack it with. And so he's another reason they get a lot lower ownership too, because everyone's like, well, do I just run Murray naked and hope he drops a 40 bomb? And, he throws a one to this guy, that guy, and runs one in.
Mhm.
And I think with Lamar that you like him so much because where the targets are going there as well. You got Marquise Brown, you got Mark Andrews is you can stack him with one of those guys and still he's throwing the ball a ton more this year than he has been. His air yards are up. So you definitely got a couple guys you can stack with versus like Kyler Murray, where you're going to have to run a few lineups to figure out a stack combination
Mhm.
there. But I mean, these are all guys that I really like. I've tended to be a lot less on Lamar over the years, and I just hate playing that guy for some reason. But I've been a little bit more in Showdown. I was really heavy on him the other night. He had a big game, and then this weekend I might have to get more exposure to him. I always like Mark Andrews, and I'm starting to come on to Marquise Brown a little bit more after his big game. So
Yeah, I can hear you with that. The only thing I'm struggling with is I like Heineke and I like that you get the discount for him. I am having a hard time with him being the second highest owned quarterback. I understand it's against KC. Personally, we'll get into that in running backs, but I love Antonio Gibson in this game. And I actually, you're going to play Heineke, you're going to play him with the same guy. You're going to get Terry McLaurin everywhere. I would go another route and not necessarily play Heineke, but I have a bunch of Chief stacks that are run back with Adam Humphries and Antonio Gibson. And I think that you get low enough ownership and some value savings, especially with the, obviously with the cheap receiver side of it. But I think without Samuel in there this week, I think that's a really good spot actually to try and get a cheap receiver. What about you, Sheets? What are you doing for quarterbacks? I know you mentioned the Cincinnati game. Are you playing? So you're into the Burrow idea, right?
Yeah. So you as Rohde mentioned, I mean, there's a lot of Q tags on the receivers that are going to impact just everything. So make sure you check back with us 11:30, whatever. I want to comment on your discussion of Lamar versus Kyler Murray with respect to how to pair them and how to play them in GPPs. I always have issues with Lamar, like you were saying with Kyler Murray, because Lamar can run it in, and he can get a lot of fantasy points that way. But you're playing the big GPPs, you kind of want those kind of like perfect looking lineups where you have like a receiver catching it from, or preferably even two. And where Andrews is clearly number one, I think that the second receiver, the other receiver just kind of goes in and out. Like Marquise Brown had a good game last week, but the week before that, I mean, he dropped the ball every time he touched it was thrown to him. And I just still kind of have this sense that secondary, that main wide receiver role is just kind of like up in the air. I don't know. It just seems like it's Lamar running it or getting it to Andrews. And with respect to Kyler Murray, I just find that, I don't know, I just kind of, if I want to play him, I just want to just overpay for Hopkins. I mean, nobody ever plays him anymore. He's because of his price. And if I was going to play Kyler Murray, it would be one of those like lineups where I play him with Hopkins and then look at the rest of the lineup and get really, really nauseous about where that ends up taking me. But that's probably what I would end up doing. And that's why I don't end up with too much of Kyler Murray in GPPs, why I don't end up with too much of Lamar in GPPs, and why I like kind of like the good, to cure my OCD. I'll have my Burrow with my, Boyd and Higgins, you know what I mean, or Chase, and I'll have my, you know what I mean, like I still think he's on the freaking Rams. My Stafford with Kupp and Woods and whatever it is, and the easy run backs. So I do like Heineke a lot. I it's part of that whole game stack. McLaurin's going to be the super obvious. Now you told me that Samuel was out. Is that what that I didn't know that.
That's what I have right now. So look, you look at the Washington receivers, and we'll get into receivers, but you could. I mean, look, De'Ami Brown maybe a better play. That's probably the more the people will say it's a better play. I think if you're down a bunch and you're going to have a bunch of underneath routes being thrown, I think you have a potential for like a 10+ target game for Adam Humphries in this type of environment.
Well, I don't need to transition to running back, but are we still supposed to? Do we still keep playing McKissick in game scripts like that?
Let's transfer over to running
Okay.
back. I don't think I'm playing. No, for me the answer is
Okay.
no.
Okay.
I don't think there's any reason. I know we haven't seen the same sort of target share that we used to from Antonio Gibson, but I happen to love Gibson in this matchup. The Chiefs haven't been able to stop anybody through the air or on the ground. And I think he's a terrific play. He's also a terrific pivot off of the guys in his price tier. What you mentioned about DeAndre Swift, great play. I totally understand it. I understand the Darrell Henderson play completely. I understand Darrell Williams. These are all especially because of his price in that same, Chiefs game. But we have all these guys at all this high ownership. My favorite guy actually is Jonathan Taylor. I think he's the best play on the slate in terms of running back. I actually think if I had to bet who's going to be the highest scoring player, I think he's right there. I really, really do. I think against Houston, they're going to just pound the ball like crazy. It's going to be a boring game, and you could see him have like 30 carries. I really think it's on the table. But I really, really like the pivot away from all of these same guys in the 6,300 range. You can see like sort by salary here, all these guys in the 6,300, 6,400 range. And the guys who are getting ignored are two guys I like quite a bit, are Gibson and Mixon. I really, really like both those guys in that spot. I don't think I'm going to go with the Zeke route. And I love Nick Chubb as well against Arizona as a run back. I think that Arizona, again, Murray to Hopkins with Nick Chubb as a run back, I think is a really, really, really good and really under-owned stack that people are just not going to do this week. Rohde, where do you stand at running back, and what do you think about what I was just saying over there?
Yeah, I really like what you're talking about at running back there, and those are great plays there in that tier where they're all like 5% there, and just getting off that chalk running back. It is going to be hard to get off some of those cheaper chalk guys though. Like this is a really good week where you have to figure out if you want to be above that chalk or you want to kind of be under on that guy. But I really like those plays like Mixon. If you're not going to play that Burrow stack, I mean, he's a definitely great option. Aaron Jones, another guy you didn't say in there. I know he's going up against Chicago, but at lower ownership, if he's the guy over Adams that gets those 1 yard dump off passes that he had that big 41-point game, you're going to want it. I mean, he's got a little bit of a floor game, but I mean, he had a 41-point game. Adams can have those big games. Those are the two guys for the, and I don't think Chicago is a great team. And, I love that play if he's going to be low owned. Jonathan Taylor, though, you talked about.
Yeah.
He always busts when he's like this kind of guy for me. Like, oh, I'm going to go all in on Taylor, right? It's a crappy team. I really like him when he's 5% owned. Nobody plays him. I had him a captain the other night, big game. Lamar ended up taking that game over. But, it's like I play this Taylor guy. I want him to smash. I'm loaded on him, and then he scores like me 5 points. And Hines gets like the 2 touchdowns. And I'm sitting there like, damn, what a bad week to pick him up. So I never get him right for some reason. So I do like the player, though. I really like that player.
Well, interestingly, I actually feel like there's a little bit of a path we can figure out with that. So in these games where he's smashed, it's been games where they're playing from ahead most of the game, going back to Baltimore before they came back, obviously, and actually did a lot of work through the air in that game because he had the big 76-yarder. But yeah, if you look at the games where he tends to go off, it's games where they're playing from ahead. Where he tends to struggle is when they're playing from behind. And that's when you get the more Hines work. I just don't see them playing from behind more than one score very often against Houston here. That's why I like him. Now he's going to be really popular. So like I said, there's plenty of pivots. Play Antonio Gibson, play Joe Mixon, play DeAndre Swift's going to be really popular, but play jump up to Chubb, jump up to Aaron Jones, like you mentioned. I will probably be below every other running backs ownership other than Taylor. Everybody, and then I want to be overweight on Gibson, overweight on Mixon. Even as much as I like Swift this week, I probably am going to have to be a little bit underweight just because of how popular it'll be. And I'll do the same with Darrell Henderson. I think these guys are going to have solid games, but there's other options around them that I can play at just much, much lower ownership. And we didn't talk about one thing, assuming that Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook both play. I mean, first of all, Dalvin Cook is a phenomenal play if he plays, in my opinion. I don't love the matchup. I just think at 7,700, it's a really, really cheap price tag for a guy who basically can put up the same as Christian McCaffrey. I still don't think I'm going to get there as much with these guys. I'm sort of going back and forth on McCaffrey. Sheets, where do you stand on that? And then I'll jump over to you, Rohde, real quick on the higher tier running backs.
Oh, we're just talking about higher tier stuff right now?
Yeah, well, or just, you throw your running backs out there, but also I'm curious about your thoughts on the higher tier and then take us.
Yeah, I mean, I have McCaffrey rated as a really strong play. I don't really have Cook projected as in yet. So I have to wait on that. I want to talk about another guy. The guy that rates for me the best is someone that no one's mentioned yet. I literally never heard of him, but I just like ran my stuff. And who is Khalil Herbert?
Khalil Herbert? What am I missing here? Rohde?
Is he like Chicago running back or something?
Oh yeah. This might not be updated.
Oh, it's
I
not
think
updated. Look at this.
Damian Williams, right? He's got COVID, so Herbert's going to be starting for Chicago.
My bad. That's right. I didn't have it updated. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's rating for me. I mean, he's probably going to be the super. I would imagine the super chalk, right? I mean, he rates for me is like light years the best point per dollar play, and also, I mean, whatever. So he's going to be, I think, the main. I mean, unless I'm hallucinating, he could be the main decision on the slate. I think of how much to play of him. I mean, he's 4,600.
Yeah. 100% my bad, guys. I hadn't updated my sheets, but absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're right about him. I actually got his name mixed up too. I had it written down as something else because I know very little about the guy. I know that he's supposed to be a talented kid. What do you know about him, Rohde? And do you really think against Green Bay, this feels like bad chalk to me, to be honest with you?
That's why I said a little bit ago. I was like, you really got to figure out these guys that are going to be chalky, whether you want, to go over or under. And I'm just feeling like the chalk's been hitting so much lately. And a lot of people that play more, contrarian are struggling this year. Chalk is just going off left and right. And I feel like we got one of these weeks coming where you want to be under on some of these chalk guys because there's so many good plays of lower owned guys that can go off. And I think this might be one of the weeks that I'm going to go more contrarian over these chalkier plays.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think they're going to give him the ball. Are they even going to be able to score against Green? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah,
like,
that's another
what I'm
question.
saying. Yeah, like, why are we going to have a chalky guy? I don't care if he's 4,600. Like, get him out. For me, that's the perfect example of a guy who I probably on Sunday, maybe I'll change my mind. 11:30 a.m. Eastern, guys, will be live with you. But as of right now, I want to be way underweight on and it's showing 1%. He's going to be like 30% owned based on the point per dollar factor and the fact.
Yeah, he'll get a bump. I don't think RG's bumped him yet. Is why he's only 1% and then only 14.5 projected. He might get a little bit more projection than that too.
I would rather play Darrell Williams at 4,900 for a team that's going to score 5 touchdowns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because he could accidentally walk himself into 2 touchdowns. I don't know.
Yeah, because Kelsey and them guys fall on the 1 yard line all the time, and KC hands it off to the running back for that 1 yard touchdown. So then these guys got 2 touchdowns. You're like, well, shit, I got Hill and Kelsey. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. Like, I love Chase Edmonds. I think Chase Edmonds is having like a great real life season. What is the fantasy game that we would actually want to use from him? I don't see any. There's none. So I don't want any of these 18, 15 point, 14 point guys. If I'm going to play these guys, you only get so many positions. I want to play 2 running backs. I'm probably not going to play 3 very often. So for me, Herbert is a guy you use in your cash games, but not a guy who currently I want to play in my tournaments personally. That's just my take. I know the numbers like him and everything, but that's just my personal instinctual take. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to stick with it, but that's where I'm at right now. Sheets, you have Herbert as a high ranked. I mean, because he's going to get the workload and all that. But what do you think of the top level guys? The guys like McCaffrey.
Yeah, I like the guys that you mentioned. So I like McCaffrey. These are the running backs that I have. That's kind of separated themselves. Like McCaffrey, Henderson, Swift, Khalil Herbert, but Eckler, Taylor, and Aaron Jones. Basically, all the guys that you mentioned. I would say that I don't think anybody of those is a particular standout over the others. So if you can get, any of those guys at lower ownership, I think it's great. And again, the Minnesota thing, I just don't have that handle on that yet, But I think as I mentioned earlier in the week, that if Cook is in and healthy, I mean, he's got to be a good play, right?
Right.
And if he's not in and not healthy, I still think the Madison remains a good play. The running back just gets it's a lot of work for them. And yeah, I don't know if we're going to get to. Are we going to get to the tight end specific before?
Yeah. We'll get into that.
Okay. No, because I had a guy I wanted to mention, but yeah, okay, go for it.
We'll get to that. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that with all this being said, I think I understand that this year chalk's been hitting. I'm never going to be a guy who looks at that kind of thing. I'm going to always try to stay off the board. And if I get Joe Mixon and Antonio Gibson at lower, 1/4 the ownership of Darrell Henderson and who else are we talking about? Josh Jacobs and those guys, Jonathan Taylor. I'll just take the lower owned guys there. I really do, especially because they fit into my game stacks, especially in Gibson's case. So that's the way I'm looking, assuming that Gibson, of course, is a full go, which I think he will be. All right, let's move over to wide receiver. Rohde, who do you have sort of as your priority guys? I know again, it's going to be in game stacks and all that stuff, but who are you looking at mostly this week?
Oh, this is a good one. We got a lot of good receivers this week. I mostly stack it or do like secondary correlations. Obviously, everybody knows a lot of injury reports here, this week. But you got some guys like, Chase is a guy that I probably going to get into my lineups a little bit more. I do like that game. He's only coming in at 8.5 at 6.7 price tag. I like that guy. Keenan Allen, obviously the 6.4 price tag. Jacoby Myers at a 5.5 price tag against Dallas. I mean, a lot of people, he's going to be chalkier, but I mean, he might be a run back if you want to stack that game, or you do a secondary correlation like Zeke and Jacoby Myers, just giving you guys ideas,
Sure.
I always like Mike Williams. I need to get more of him in. It's really unfortunate last week. I had a lot of Mike Williams. Obviously, he had a good game. I had a lot of Herbert, but I had so many duds in all his lineups that I must have made some grouping errors. Like every lineup I'm scrolling through, like, do I have a chance with this lineup? Trying to find a Millie takedown lineup, and none of them happen to fall in there. So I gotta work on my groups a little bit, even myself. So we're gonna get it down this week and the correlations. I always had like one good running back and then a dud receiver with that correlation. So so we got to get it down, guys, in those upside, and we'll get it one of these weeks. I really like some of those guys. What's
good?
What's the Rams receivers coming? Cup at 9%.
Yeah,
Woods is 6.1. He's a guy like in that tier, in that 6K tier. I had a lot of Brandin Cooks last week. He kind of did me in, is what it was, and he's 5.8 in that game. So there's another secondary correlation, guys. Jonathan Taylor, which we talked about, Bobby really likes, and you can run it back with Cooks. But last week Cooks didn't work out, that's for sure. But people scored in that game. There were some other Houston guys that scored, so it just didn't go to my guy.
Yeah, I hear you. Sheets, what do you think about, what are your wide receiver plays? And then I'm going to talk about value after we talk about these top end guys.
So Adams, Cup, and Tyreek Hill, to me, are the three main guys at the top, so to speak. I mean, I'm not just sort of my salary, but those are the top point guys as far as I'm concerned. Both game environment and just Davante Adams, just because he's just the nuts, right? So Davante Adams, Cooper Kupp, Hill. We already mentioned McLaurin as part of stacks. Chase, and Higgins. You just mentioned Cooks. You already mentioned Allen. The one guy that again, he was pretty chalky last week. Maybe he'll be under 10% this week. I would go back to DJ Moore. At 7, I have him at 7% right now.
Yeah.
More they're just kind of like weird guy, not weird guy, I guess, but I have some Cortland Sutton showing up as a decent idea at low ownership. So I do like that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you on all these guys. For me, it's Tyreek Hill. I like the KC side, and then DeAndre Hopkins. I don't care. I'm just going to ignore DeAndre Hopkins. Look, he's dudding at 20 fantasy points. No big deal. I'm not worried about it. We saw what Mike Williams did to this Cleveland team last week. I have no reason to think DeAndre Hopkins won't do something similar this week. And I will absolutely just overload if he's going to be 4% owned. I really don't think he's ever going to kill me. And I think he's got a chance to break a slate. I'm not going to play any Davante Adams this week. I love Davante Adams, but there's no way you're going to get me to play a 21% owned guy against Chicago in a game where I don't think they're going to need to throw the ball after the first half. I really like Green Bay in that game. I like the Aaron Jones idea, but I'm going to skip the Adams thing personally. I'm going to skip Mike Williams personally. I'm going to skip Justin Jefferson for the first time, like maybe the season. I'm going to skip Cooper Kupp. I will be heavy on DeAndre Hopkins. I will be heavy on I will be probably with the field or maybe just below it on McLaurin. And I will be overweight on Keenan Allen, even though he's going to have some ownership. I like the Cortland Sutton idea. I'll be with the field on Robert Woods. I'm just going through the guys who are, going to have some ownership. I like Brandin Cooks this week, actually. I think he's got a chance to have a big game against that Indy secondary that I just think is garbage. Even though I know they haven't looked great at all the time, you can see that the usage for the most part, I know he had a little bit of a down week, but overall in the season, I think he's 6th in targets. And I like that passing spot for them, especially because I assume they're going to be down fairly big. We didn't talk about the Giants receivers. I'm not getting to them as much because of the matchup, but I do think this Kadarius Toney is for real. What are your guys' thoughts on that? And then let's jump to, like, do we have value at receiver that we're using? Rohde,
Yeah, I mean, on the Tony guy, I played him last week. I had at least 10 lineups with him, and I didn't have the right run backs with him either. So, like, he was a good play for me. I think you can run him back this week with the Rams stacks. I like a lot of those guys you said. It does sound like you're going with the balance build, though, Bobby, which I don't mind, because you said some of the value running backs, some of the mid-tier running backs, mid-tier receivers. That kind of gives you an overall balance. You're not paying $9K for Adams, and then you have to go to Herbert or that 4-6 running back because you're playing $9K for Adams. You're kind of staying with those ceiling explosive guys in the mid-tier, which I really do like how that build. And if Keenan Allen's only 13%, I definitely think you want to be over on that. That seems way too low, like Bobby said.
He had 2 plays that could have gotten him a monster game last week when I was at the game I was at, and he just hasn't put up that monster game yet. The targets, if you look at the targets, they're there. You know what I mean? They'll find him everywhere on the field. They'll find him near in the red zone. I really do like the Keenan Allen, and you're right. I am going for more of a middling build. Sheets, what about you, just in terms of some of the mid-tier wide receivers? And then is there any value you really like at wide receiver?
Yeah, so I guess I'll just, I'll reiterate my Robert Woods as considered a mid-tier. And I don't know, I'm not going to play this guy, but Jacoby Myers looks like, okay, 5,500.
Mm-hmm.
But transitioning to the value, let's just talk about this because there's one guy who's just going to be just like insane chalk if injury news plays out a certain way, and probably is a good play anyway, and that's Mecole Hardman at 4,200 for Kansas City. He got 8 million targets last week, and God forbid if Tyreek Hill is out, it's just over. You know what I mean?
I got some breaking news right now, actually.
What just happened? It is Friday morning, so it does happen. What happened?
CMC ruled out. Nick Chubb ruled out.
Oh,
Joe
my
Mixon
goodness.
have full workload. Those are the 3 notifications.
Okay, so obviously, so now you have Kareem Hunt is going to be the ultimate mega chalk of the slate.
He's still questionable, though.
What?
They did say he's questionable still.
Interesting. I'm going to guess that. Okay, well, let's see. We'll see what happens, I guess, before we do that. But that is interesting, and it'll probably be breaking while we do this. We're doing it Friday morning. I think that's a really good point about Hardman. Look, he's a fine play even with these guys healthy. You see, he's getting the work. You know what I mean? And he's actually had double-digit points in 3 out of 5 games. He's 4,200. We don't have that much value in general. But I don't know if I want to play him if Hill is there. If Hill's out, I will be happy to take shots on Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle.
Pringle's my man. Let's go.
Let's go, man. Right? And he's almost really gotten there for us, but not quite really all the way. The guy who I actually think is the sneaky, really, really good value play, assuming that things don't, I don't know, that we don't get any extra news, which I'm sure we will. I think Parris Campbell. We saw it the other night. You saw him getting the work, and not only that, those two targets that he didn't catch, in addition to the pass interference that was a 60-yard pass interference call. They're looking for him downfield all the time. If there was a time to open it up with him, I think this would be the spot against Houston. And obviously, I like Pittman. I think Pittman's the clear choice. But if you're looking for real value, Parris Campbell, Adam Humphries, KJ Osborne, those are home run hitters that Humphries is more of a target share guy. But overall, I think those are guys who you could see with 20 plus fantasy points in the 3K range. Is there anybody for you guys?
Yeah.
Assuming that Sheets, go ahead.
I got 2 more. What I was going to get to is that if Mecole Hardman did become huge chalk, I had a little pivot actually. If you don't want, and this is such a strong idea. I can't believe this. So if this Khalil Herbert character ends up being 40% owned, let's play all the Darnell Mooney. From Chicago. I think that's a great idea. I think it fits your game script a little bit better. And so I like that. And you already mentioned what's the name. And then if you really want to win $1 million, actually he's not going to be that low owned either. If you want to play the Cincinnati guys, you can play the guy. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name. It's like 7 names there, but it ends in St. Brown. He's 4,200 as well. So I like all that stuff.
Me too. And real quick before I turn it over to you, Rohde, I'm just going to say that another interesting, just a price, almost like a price like issue I have is with Adam Thielen. I think there's a multiple touchdown, threat every week, and he's 5,800, which is the price. I don't know if we've ever seen Adam Thielen at 5,800 before. And I just don't think people are necessarily looking that route. I don't think it's a great matchup with Carolina or anything like that, but I do think he's another interesting value play. Rohde, how about you for value? I know generally you don't like to spend down at wide receiver, but is there anybody you're looking at, assuming that everybody?
Yeah, there's a bunch of the good mid-tier. I'm obviously probably ready to move to tight end here, but one guy that, you said Mooney, but one guy that you didn't mention still has ceiling upside, in my opinion, is Allen Robinson. I don't know really how they're really working the ball. There's a lot of issues there, but he's been an elite receiver. I've seen him with 10 to 12 targets in a game. At 5.3, his price keeps dropping. I know he's not really getting there, but he's still getting a little bit of targets. Yep. And I feel like he's going to have an explosive game one of these days. And he might be a guy that I run back with, like a Aaron Jones, Allen Robinson, or Mooney. You can run back with like a secondary correlation out of that game. I know a lot of people ask how I correlate my lineups. That's why during the show I try to talk about, run backs and stuff, like how I'm going to be building my MME builds.
Yeah, I agree with that. And by the way, him being 5.3 for Allen Robinson, that's kind of crazy. We've never seen that before. Like he and Thielen are the ones, like I've never seen these prices on them the whole time. And maybe it's warranted a little bit with Robinson because of what's happened, but I agree with you. And it fits the game script, like Sheets was saying with Mooney. Let's talk about tight ends now. Rohde, I'll start with you. I think that, Mark Andrews is going to be the mega chalk. I think Travis Kelce is going to be pretty popular. I love Kelce. I'll just be overweight on him this week anyway. I don't care what the ownership ends up being. I like Kelce, Hawkinson, and Andrews quite a bit. The other cheap guys, only one who really I'm really crazy about is, oddly, he's not going to be owned at all, and he's playing against my team. That's Evan Ingram. I still believe in this guy's talent, skill level, and he's gotten a decent work share, nothing huge, but he can break a big play. He's 3,400. I like him and Hunter Henry at the bottom, but mostly I think that I'm going to be spending up for Travis Kelce. What are you doing, Rohde, at tight end?
Yeah, I've been, hanging on that mid-tier a lot this year, or paying up. I've had a lot of exposure to Kelce or Waller, on FanDuel. If you're playing over there, it's easier to get him in. But like Waller's like coming in at low ownership this week, in Denver, and he's had a couple bad games, right? So, like he still gets a lot of targets. End zone looks they missed him on, so he had that monster game to start the year, and then he's kind of faded out. But don't forget, he can have a ceiling game, guys. I mean, he's getting 8 targets average a game. I mean, obviously the 19 targets is insane, but don't forget about him. At least sprinkle him in. Mark Andrews is a favorite at 5.2. Really like him. He's getting a lot of usage. So those are the guys I'm going to be high on, so.
I think Waller's interesting. I don't know if I could try to battle him out versus Kelce. I just don't think that is ever a good match, but on FanDuel, you get a serious pricing discount on him. Kelce's 8,500 over there. Waller 7K. That's where I could see myself using some Waller. I have a very hard time not just playing Kelce if I'm within $500 or $400 or whatever it is.
It's going to be tough to get to Waller when Kelce's right there. Literally swap a defense from a $2,700 defense to like a $2,300 defense or $2,200 defense, and you got an elite Kelce at an elite matchup there.
Yeah. How about you, Sheets? I'm guessing, because I know your sort of general thing, I'm going to take a shot that you've got some cheap guys for us.
Yeah. So the top point per dollar play on the whole slate is Ricky Seals-Jones.
Ricky Seals, yeah.
And he fits the stack of the chalkiest game as well.
Yeah.
So that's obvious. That's not going to be particularly earth-shattering. I think that people are going to do that if they don't play Kelce. And I like Kelce, I like Angela, like you said. And the other guy that I'll just throw in just as an eye test thing. We've been waiting for him for 3 years to show out. And maybe, and I brought this up earlier in the week, maybe it is time for David Njoku to be the guy. Going last week, you were mentioning he probably wasn't even the first primary tight end option on the team. because they have Hooper or whatever. But who knows? I mean, for $1 million, I'll take a shot. I mean, he's proven, he has like 30-point upside, right?
He just put up 28 the other day.
Oh, I don't know what's his price now. Is he still under 4K?
He's 3,700.
I mean, I'll throw that into the hopper.
And while you're doing that as well, I will throw Austin Hooper out as an option. I know they didn't look his way last week, but he's 2,800, and he actually is supposedly their primary tight end. Rohde, real quick before we move over to defenses and then talk about summing it up, is there anybody who stands out for you at the cheap side that you would use if you had to? Who would be the guy you use, I should say?
I mean, Hunter Henry does look good to me down there. I always liked him when he was with the Chargers. Obviously, he was a good stack option. Jared Cook at 3.2 is another one in that offense. If you like, maybe go if you want to pay up to Mike Williams. You're going to have to probably stack him with Heber to get that game in.
Mm-hmm.
The double stack with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen's a little expensive. You might be able to get there though. There's some cheap options. So yeah, Cook's been reliable. So yeah, I don't mind those guys right in there. So
my only issue is Cook is something you brought up with me last week, Rohde. It's Parham always gets touchdowns.
I was gonna say that. I was like, but I thought you were ready to move on. I'm like, I should talk about my man Parham. I drafted Parham in like best ball he was my last pick, 200 some pick and a bunch of stuff. I do have a bunch of extreme Chargers best ball stacks that are just absolutely smashing it right now. I literally have Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan. I got the whole damn stack with Cook and Parham. I got like massive best ball exposure stacks in some of these games. I took everyone on the team, and so it's been helping me out when they keep going off, and I got all the guys. So
that's the move. That makes perfect sense. And while I love the whole Washington side of things, I'm just going to say I know Ricky Seals-Jones stands out, but I will say, even though I'm into that game stack, I will always be below the field on that guy. Just get me 10 fantasy points one time, and then we'll talk. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't bring myself to quite pull the Ricky.
Yeah, but that might not even be good enough though. Like if Waller's or these bigger guys are like Andrews has a 30-point game, or Kelsey has a 30-point game. Like your 10 points, yeah, he's 3K, but you double the price, that's 7K. Just double these guys. You're at like 3x upside on a position no one's gonna play if they're playing all in on Ricky.
100%. The one guy who's cheaper.
Like you want ceiling outcomes, guys.
Right. The Andrews is the obvious one, which is why I think the TJ Hawkinson, I think his ownership is actually higher than he will be. I don't think he'll even be this high owned. I do like the TJ Hawkinson idea because there is a ceiling there. There's a ceiling for Kelsey. There's a ceiling for Andrews. We all know all those guys. And I could see the Jared Cook being Jared Cook and Hunter Henry being the 15 to 20 point guys at the bottom at the cheaper price tag. And I kind of like Sheets' Njoku idea. I think there's something to that. Guy's really talented, and they definitely were looking for him because Baker hates throwing the ball over the top. If you're going to keep finding him underneath, he can run in the open field. All right, defenses real quick before we get out of here. Sheets, I know me and Rohde do the same thing. We're paying down at defense basically all the time. Okay. And in addition to paying down, we're going to try and find the slightly lower owned options of the pay down. So like the Texans would stand out to me because you're playing against Carson Wentz and you're 2% owned at 2,200. The Washington football team, I will not play against KC, but other than that, I am open to every cheap defense. Where do you stand with the defenses, Sheets?
So the one that's going to project the best is actually more of a pay up. It would be the Colts this week.
Yeah.
But I got one for you. So in the theme of fading Khalil Herbert, let's go with your freaking Packers, dude. I mean, let's because first of all, people will pay up for the Colts at 3,500 because they're going to project the best. So who's going to pay an extra 100 for the Packers? That's what I'd like to know, and I think the person's name is going to be Eric Haber. This between. So I really kind of like that. The other defenses that I'm looking at that are going to be low owned that I think have shots are Kansas City, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I think who's going to be really, really chalky is Baltimore.
Yeah, the Ravens and Colts are going to be just massive.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I also see a lot of ownership coming, or when I say a lot, I mean over 10% coming to Detroit. Right. For my own reasons, obviously, I'm not doing that. I don't see, and also don't discount, listen, it's only a 10-game slate, okay? So I don't like to pay this much, but at 2% ownership, I mean, if you can get 2 Jalen Ramsey pick sixes, like there's no Saquon Barkley, and it's and you got a game script that's really conducive to this being a total shit show. So look, 4,700 is definitely, it's bad theoretically to pay that for defenses, but it's also on a 10-game slate, you get 25 points out of your defense, you're going to be very happy.
Yes, and I would say I will second that, but I will say it. The Rams will be my defense on FanDuel. DraftKings is a little bit hard for me to get there. You know what I mean? Rohde, I know you like to pay down. What are the pay down options you have?
Well, I mean, just looking at this list right now, Texans here, Carson Wentz has been turnover prone, sack prone. At 2.2, they might be a team I'm going to look at. I have no idea why Baltimore is going to be 15% owned. Can anybody tell me that? I don't think they're stopping anybody, especially my Chargers are not going to get stopped by Baltimore defense.
Nope.
They've had injuries all over Baltimore's team. If you guys, I get their 2.3K, but if you want to get 45 points dropped on you in a high scoring matchup, have at it. I mean, there's turnovers in those kind of games. I do get it. If you're passing more, you're throwing more. You do get it, but I mean, there's other options. You don't need to pay 15% for a defense. So
yeah, I agree with you.
I don't even mind the Houston defense.
I'm with you on that. I think that's to me my favorite answer so far is the Houston defense at lower ownership.
Even the Lions defense can get some sacks on Burrow went down last week. Even throw some turnovers. I do like the Packers. I think the Bears offense is in shambles. I mean, that's a good play, but they're expensive.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even mind grabbing my Chargers. Lamar runs around in the backfield, gets sacks. He's been throwing it up a little bit. Maybe he gets a couple picks or something. I've always been, Bosa's on that team, and he gets sacked. So I definitely don't mind the Chargers there cheap. So those are teams I'm going to be, going toward trying to attack.
Yeah, I totally agree with basically everything I said. I do think the Texans are the side I'm leaning on the most at the cheap price tier, given the ownership and all. All right, quick sum up. I mean, I'll just say real quick for me, and then I'll just turn it over to you guys for maybe your last takes. KC, Washington, Baltimore, LA, Arizona, Cleveland, Detroit, Cincinnati are the games. And for me, it actually is in that order. I think, though, because of the ownership, I'm going to lean a lot heavier on this Arizona Cleveland game, especially with Chubb out now. I'm going to be all over. I'm just going to be all over that game. I know it's going to make Kareem Hunt popular, but there's not going to be people playing the Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins stack. So I'm just going to keep rolling with it. Sheets, what are yours? And then we'll finish out with you, Rohde.
And just to reiterate, Kansas City, Rams, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Washington as far as game stacks. Yeah, I guess that answers your question, right?
No, that's perfect. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Rohde. How about you?
Yeah, you guys said a lot of it. One more breaking news is Terry McLaurin didn't practice today. He's questionable for the game. I mean, we'll see on 11:30, guys. So tune in. Also check the Discord. You guys can ask us anything in there. We're always responding. And the game stack, that they probably didn't say is Chargers.
I said that one, but I love it still.
Oh yeah, I know. I think you did. I just emphasize the Chargers.
I'm totally into it. I love it all. I think the Chargers are a Super Bowl contender too. Guys, thanks so much. This was great doing the show with both of you. I look forward to 11:30 on Sunday. Let's make some money this week. Rohde, I'm going to leave it with your final thing. Is there anything I'm missing? Is there a sweepstakes you're doing? Is there a thing you're doing? Or what can we look forward to on Sunday morning?
Just my awesome advice on Sunday morning.
I love it. All right. Well, Rohde's going to help us win $1 million on Sunday. Thanks to both of you guys. Good luck to everybody out there, and we will see you at Sunday at 11:30.
See you.